Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we'll be continuing into part 3 of What If Piccolo Was Never Born. If you haven't seen part 2, there is a title card where you can go check it out and see what happened in the last part. But today we'll be going into the continuation of Z. Krillin taking the lead in training the Z fighters to help them grow stronger and teach the Kaioken. Would the Saiyans even pose a threat? How will the fight go down? Will they end up sparing Vegeta and Nappa or stop them as soon as they get on Earth? All that will be answered in this part of What If Piccolo Was Never Born. Also, if y'all are interested, I own a Discord server for anyone who wants to join and talk more about Dragon Ball with me and other viewers. Maybe give us some of your own ideas of what ifs, and maybe in the future, I could do them. Check the link in the description down below. For today's question of the video comes from Saiyan Hasbin, and their question is, who do you think is the worst Dragon Ball character and why? And honestly, that's kind of a hard question to ask. When you say who is the worst character, the way I think of it is like who's made I guess some of the more biggest mistakes in the story compared to someone who is more terribly written. I'm not gonna like make it that I'm counting the terribly written characters, but more about someone who made more mistakes. And honestly, it's really between Goku and Vegeta. And I know it's gonna be weird because I'm saying like the two main characters. I'm not saying they're bad like as in bad written, but like bad as in the mistakes they have made that kind of almost cost everyone their lives. First thing, Vegeta, semi-perfect cell, enough said. And then also him going to Majin Vegeta because he wanted to fight Goku. And with Goku giving Cell a sensu bean, fighting Majin Vegeta instead of dealing with the threat. I guess it's like this is gonna be a crazy answer to the question because people are gonna be like, "What? You're saying Goku and Vegeta are the worst characters?" Only because of the mistakes they made in the story. I can't. It's hard to say who is the worst character in Dragon Ball. At least in the way Dragon Ball was made and is currently, it's kind of hard to state like who is the worst. Maybe someone who's very annoying. And honestly, for me, sometimes it could be Chi-Chi, but that's just how her character is. There's nothing like, maybe like the little fact of she doesn't want Gohan to train. But again, that's just her watching out for her child. So it's kind of, it's a hard question to ask. Personally, my say would be Goku and Vegeta. Just for like some of the mistakes they made. I mean, they definitely made up for it with all the times they saved Earth. But honestly, I can't think of anyone who may have made a worse mistake. Thank you so much for your question. If you would like to be featured in my next video, just comment down below your question, whether it's about Dragon Ball, another anime, or personal, and maybe your comment will be picked for the next video. Without further ado, let's dive into part 3 of What If Piccolo Was Never Born. The time would come where the Saiyans would arrive on Earth. But before we get into that, let's dive into the power levels for everyone. Krillin at 40,000, Kami would be at 35,000, after getting his youth back and being able to use Kaioken the best out of the group thanks to his alien biology. Then Goku and Raditz would both be at a power level of 30,000 with having Kaioken, but they didn't really focus on trying to control their great ape forms since I don't think Raditz would have a complete control over his transformation himself. Yamcha and Tien would both be at a power level of 25,000, also having Kaioken. And then with the two kids, with now knowing Gohan is a Saiyan hybrid, it makes sense that his growth would surpass Trunks' growth, with Gohan being at a power level of 7,000 and Trunks at a power level at 4,500. But Trunks doesn't let that discourage him from trying to keep up with Gohan, as they did create a friendly rivalry between each other, as they would know how to use the Kaioken, but they are not permitted to use it since their kid bodies would not be able to handle it. The Z fighters, excluding the two kids, would all head over to the Saiyans' location to face them down. Knowing about their scouters, they would suppress their power levels to make it seem that they are weaker than Vegeta. Having a standoff, Vegeta would announce his plan of wanting the Dragon Balls to become immortal and threatens Kami that if he doesn't give it to them, he will destroy the planet. This really ticked off Kami, with someone threatening the planet that he is supposed to protect, and the fact of them wanting to misuse the Dragon Balls for their selfish desires. Vegeta then looked over at Raditz with an angry look on his face, calling him a traitor to the Saiyan race. He lifted up his hand, shooting out a blast aiming to kill him, but that is when Raditz powers up to his max and deflects the attack with ease, to the surprise of Vegeta and Nappa, as they would turn on their scouters to see Raditz's power level of 30,000. And when they look over to Kami, as he was trying to control his anger, his power level was rising, reaching 35,000. Their scouters both explode on their faces, as their face was filled with pure fear. Raditz warns them not to attempt to create a power ball so that they would transform into great apes, or they would quickly remove both of their tails. They were speechless, especially Vegeta. His ego would be tanked after seeing someone who used to be so much weaker than him only just a year ago far surpass him in power. He asked Raditz how it is possible that he grew much stronger than him, as Raditz explained that he may have been a low-class Saiyan, but with training, he and his brother surpassed that of an elite Saiyan. Vegeta and Nappa saw how pointless it would be if they fought, as they wouldn't have a chance to beat even the weakest of them. Vegeta would not surrender and try to fight, but that is when Goku would appear in front of Vegeta, catching his fist, telling him not to fight as he would like to spare the other two aliens that are a part of his race. Everyone wouldn't be shocked seeing how Goku is acting towards these invaders. But Raditz would try to convince his brother that they should end them now. But that is when Goku would turn to Raditz saying that there is no point in doing that. They cannot fight them, and killing them would just be a waste. He would then bring up the name Frieza, as during the year of training, Kami did talk about Frieza, as Raditz would also talk about how he and the other Saiyans wanted to overthrow Frieza, but weren't strong enough to stop him. Goku would point out that it would be better to have more fighters on their side if they did really want to stop Frieza, as Raditz would look down, accepting that he will not kill Vegeta and Nappa. The two Saiyans looked in confusion, seeing how Goku is acting very un-Saiyan-like. They wouldn't really like the fact that they would have to work with them, but they did want to end Frieza. So for the meantime, they would decide to work with the Z Fighters since they both have a common goal. They would stay on Earth thinking about their next move, since now they would need to begin planning on how to stop Frieza. Suddenly, they would all hear King Kai's voice, telling them that Frieza is heading to planet Namek as he is looking for the Dragon Balls, to the horror of everyone. Raditz and the other two Saiyans would realize how Frieza ended up learning about the Dragon Balls, as Vegeta did say that he overheard what Yamcha said about the Dragon Balls through Raditz's scouter, and that's just how Frieza heard about it as well. Kami would then panic as his people are in danger, and worst thing is that he cannot even use his own Dragon Balls to wish them to planet Namek since he used them earlier to make himself younger, as he grew enraged at the mistake he has made. Yamcha tried to calm Kami down, saying that Bulma is very smart and that she could possibly make a ship for them to travel to Namek. Bulma could make a spaceship as she would end up using pieces of Kami's old ship with also the space pods that Raditz, Vegeta, and Nappa arrived on Earth in. With the Saiyans there to aid her in understanding of their alien tech, Bulma would be able to make a ship much faster than in canon. Originally, it took her around 10 days to fix up Kami's old ship, but this ship would be more similar to the one Goku took to Namek and be much bigger since they are a big group. So we will say that it took her around a week to make this ship. During that time, everyone was training as Vegeta and Nappa were learning how to use Kaioken, and they caught on very quickly. Once the ship was prepared, then came an issue as Tien would state that it would be unwise to leave the planet completely defenseless, as he and the other humans would decide to stay on Earth in case of any other threat, or if they do fail to stop Frieza. So all going to Namek would be Goku, Raditz, Vegeta, Nappa, and Kami, as Bulma could quickly teach them how to use the spaceship on their own, as she wouldn't be as risky to adventure to another planet with having a son much earlier on. With that said and done, the group would all begin heading to planet Namek, and I would say it would take around the same time it did when Goku was heading to Namek in canon. They were trained during their time on the spaceship, but not intensely, as there were 5 people on the ship at once, but it would still have the gravity room implemented in the spaceship. They would arrive on planet around the same time as Frieza's army, as they were just landing there themselves, as the Z Fighters arrived much earlier on compared to the normal story. Their power levels would all have slightly increased, to Kami, Goku, and Raditz at 50,000, Vegeta being at 38,000, and Nappa at 25,000. Note, I know Goku grew a lot more during this week of training, but there were a lot of people on this ship, so it would be hard for all of them to train intensely, and could only do slight training, but their control over Kaioken is relatively high. I don't think their arrival would go unnoticed since there are 5 people with pretty high power levels, but the group would all sense Frieza's power level as they are completely stunned and overwhelmed with how massive Frieza's power is. Kami wouldn't want to waste time as he would fly to find Grand Elder Guru, or any Dragon Balls he can find to prevent Frieza from having any. Frieza would use the scouter to scan the power levels of the other ship that landed, and luckily they all suppressed their power levels, as Frieza would send over Kui, Zarbon, and Dodoria to check it out and to see if it was Vegeta. Kami would end up fighting Grand Elder Guru and ask Nail to speak to him, which at first Nail denied his request until Guru would command Nail to let him in, as they would meet for the first time. Kami explained how King Kai told him about the danger Namek faces with Frieza, and he and some of his friends from Earth are here to aid the Namekians from Frieza's tyranny. Guru was grateful that Kami would lend a hand after they helped him with his planet and his needs, and asked if Kami had a plan. Kami looked down as he said that none of them are anywhere near strong enough to stop Frieza, but he plans to gather the Dragon Balls to have them on standby in case they do need to use them in the future. Guru also would place his hand on Kami, unlocking his potential, as this would bring his power level from 50,000 all the way up to 200,000, as this newfound power completely shocks Kami as he thanks Guru, as he would then begin flying towards all the Namekian villages in order to collect the Dragon Balls. And that's where we're going to leave it off for now. Tell me how y'all think about the third part and how I did with the continuation of this What If. With the group landing on Namek, will they be able to stop the big threat known as Frieza? What does Kami have planned with the Dragon Balls? Will the Saiyans ever get their revenge on Frieza for what he did to their planet? And will anyone achieve the Super Saiyan transformation? What could have happened differently? Leave your thoughts down in the comments down below. I would love to hear them. If y'all are interested and enjoyed, please leave a like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell to be alerted whenever I post another part. Thank y'all so much for watching, and I will see y'all in the next part. See ya!